After the rapid development of neural networks in 2023, people split into several groups. The first are the AI conservatives, who write in the comments, oh no, we're going to get dumber because of neural networks, they're going to take over the world, enslave humanity, and so on. And they absolutely refuse to use neural networks. The others are AI newbies. They constantly use free chatbots, Telegram apps, and basically take advantage of free services to make greeting cards for someone's birthday or to write a congratulatory message. Basically, they just mess around with them however they can. The third group is AI enthusiasts. They already use paid subscriptions with neural networks. Maybe they use things like syntax, GP tunnel, and they know how to create certain prompts that speed up their work a bit. The fourth group is AI pros, who don't just send prompts to neural networks, but have completely rethought their entire workflow and managed to speed it up 2, 3, or even more times with neural networks. And in this video, I'll tell you how you can go from an AI newbie to an AI pro in just a few simple steps. So give this a like if you're not a bot or a neural network. Let's get started. The first rule, instead of saving the results of the neural network's work, save the links to the chat where you interact with the neural network. Here's a good example. If you're working in ChatGPT, you can send any prompt to the neural network, and after that, a link to your chat appears at the top. These last characters you see here are actually the unique ID of this chat. Next, copy this link and save it in the document where you plan to publish the results of your work. Why is this important? Because later, when you need to continue the conversation with the neural network, or, for example, check which prompt you used to create a particular result, you can always follow this link and return to that chat. Because using the chat search in ChatGPT is really inconvenient. Nobody really understands how to navigate these chats, but apparently the developers never intended for that to be a feature. Moreover, if you're working with several neural networks, then use links to multiple chats. As a result, whenever I need to return to a conversation, I can always open the chat where I was talking to the neural network, and all the messages are already there, so I can pick up where I left off. These might seem like obvious things, but they seriously speed up your workflow. If you want to work even faster and put these tips into practice, I've put together a free video course below. It consists of 9 lessons where you'll learn which neural networks to use, how to send requests, and how to get results for yourself. So check out the link below. The second rule is to use a knowledge base, or in other words, ingredients. In my previous videos, I mentioned that a neural network is like a stove where you can cook something. And basically, the prompt is the recipe that the neural network will follow to cook. But to get a good result, you also need ingredients, the things the neural network will use to cook. These ingredients are the source data that you upload into the neural network. These could be examples like letters, for instance. If you want to write a good letter, upload some examples or maybe a card with information about yourself so the neural network has context about who you are, what you do, and so on. Or examples of certain proposal templates if you're making commercial offers. Basically, these are the materials that will help the neural network do the job faster. If you regularly do the same kind of work, why not just put it all together in one document and upload it to the neural network every time you work with it? I recommend creating a separate folder on Google Drive called Materials for AI. This will be a folder containing only your files that help the neural network better understand your task for each specific project. Why Google Drive? Because it integrates perfectly with ChatGPT, Claude, and any other neural networks. Just sync it and it works. Awesome. The second point, you can create a separate folder. For example, if you run a blog, you can have a folder with sample emails and posts that you use, the ones that have worked well for you. A second folder could be about you and your work, so the neural network has more context about what you do, and you don't have to explain it every single time. And third, health and fitness, where you can upload all your information like your test results, medical questions, and metrics, and the neural network will understand it. And here, some experienced folks might ask me, hey Pavel, why don't you use the chat history feature like in ChatGPT or Claude? They remember everything from before. The thing is, yes, it does remember, but it remembers things its own way, and I need it to specifically remember my materials, which makes things faster. Another way you can do this is by using projects in ChatGPT or Claude. They let you do the same thing. But there's a bit of a catch with projects. If you're working with several neural networks, like ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini, and you switch between them, it can get pretty inconvenient. It's more convenient to keep these materials on your end so you can upload them to the model you need whenever you need to. Later in this video, I'll talk about more ways to speed up your workflow with AI and managing context. But let's keep moving. The third element is AI task planning. I also call this AI thinking. Basically, when you're planning a task, the first thing you need to figure out is which parts of the work you'll do manually and which parts the AI will handle for you. Then you need to decide which neural networks you'll use for each of these tasks. And after that, when you create a single document with all the information about your project, you already know, for example, that image generation will go to Nana Banana, text generation, okay, that's Claude, table analysis, that could be GenSpark or Notebook LM to gather and do research. So for each task, you need to understand which neural network to use. And to help you figure this out, I've put together a short video course below where you can learn which neural networks are used for what. But if you want to dive into this topic quickly and intensively, there's also a separate free masterclass called The Path to AI, how to quickly dive into neural networks and speed up your work. Both are free and you'll find the link below. Let's keep going. So in the end, you get a table like this for yourself. Say you have a big task or project, like creating video scripts, doing analytics, developing a new employee motivation system, conducting in-depth research, or putting together a major report. And you figure out what steps the task will involve. If you're not sure, just ask ChatGPT. Okay. Next, you figure out which neural networks you can use to get it done. And after that, you organize it in a document, listing the tasks you'll be working on and including links to the chats where you're having these conversations. At Shopify, they even introduced a standard that if someone is doing any work with a neural network, they're required to show it and let their manager know, so the manager understands that the work is being done with AI. What's more, in some companies, they recommend providing links to the actual prompts being used, so I can look them over and make sure everything's really in order. If you print out a page and there's a mistake on it, it makes no sense to correct the mistake on the printout itself. You need to fix the mistake in the program that generates it, and this prompt is kind of like a program. If the prompt is written incorrectly, then whatever gets printed out will also be wrong. If you're a manager, ask your employees for the actual prompt they used to get the result you're looking at now. And for some people, it might seem like, man, why do I even need to plan out my tasks? It already seems obvious what needs to be done. But that's not exactly true. There's a well-known story about two lumberjacks who were competing against each other. One would stop to sharpen his axe, while the other kept chopping without a break. And of course, the one who didn't sharpen his axe didn't win. It's the same situation here. If you just take a moment to plan out what you're going to do and which neural networks you'll use, you'll get the job done much faster, and it'll be easier for you moving forward. Moreover, your brain will already start switching into the mode of figuring out what prompts you need to send there. And you'll start to understand which neural network to ask for prompts for the next neural network. Basically, you'll be building a chain. The next, fourth step is to run the answer through the neural network 2 or 3 times. Because right now, not all models are equally good, and not all models are perfect. ChatGPT made mistakes in 33 to 47% of cases. Some studies found that errors or inaccuracies given by neural networks were present in up to 80% of responses. What does that mean? It means that if, for example, you're asking certain questions, it's best to ask 2 or 3 times to get different answers. Draw your own conclusions from this about what they actually do. But even better, of course, is to ask different neural networks like ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini, especially when it comes to important questions. So if you're planning to make a diagnosis on your own, I strongly advise against it. Seriously, consult a doctor. But if you really don't have that option and you're asking a neural network, try asking in different ways. Phrase your questions differently to get several perspectives. Or you can even feed the neural network's answer back to itself and ask it to play the role of a critic, to point out what's wrong and what risks there might be. That's another life hack that can help you out. I made a separate video with more details about life hacks for working with neural networks and what prompts to use. You can watch it here. And the fifth element in our process is to save your prompts in your own knowledge base, so you always have access to the right prompt and can see how you wrote something, especially if you're doing your job. For example, we had Irina from a logistics company as a student. She saved a prompt that does 3 hours of work in just 5 minutes. This prompt analyzes a large document, checks which fields in the application are filled out or not, finds errors, rewrites and adds information, then reformats it into a new format and sends it on. So, thanks to this, she was able to free up to 40% of her working time. We have a lot of stories like this, but the most important thing that helps here is creating this prompts database. But to make it more convenient for you, you can save it as assistance. For example, ChatGPT has a section called GPT Assistants, which store these prompts so you don't have to remember them anymore. Going back to our metaphor, when you save this prompt, your stove turns into a multi-cooker, and all you have to do is load the ingredients, press the bake button, and it will bake for you. You don't even remember which prompt is being used for all this. And this really speeds things up by 30 to 40% for employees who use it. But moreover, let me tell you this. Right now, those who have mastered cool prompts are becoming the most sought after specialists on the market. This is another part of AI skills that every specialist should have. I recorded a separate detailed video about these AI skills. But the most important thing to understand here is that if you master cool prompts, that's when you become a unique specialist who can handle a large amount of work in a short time, and you become a super in-demand person on the market. And below this video, I'm giving you a link to 2,000 prompts that you can use for yourself, and that'll help you work faster. So, my friends, give this video a like if you found it helpful. We've gone over 5 steps that will help you go from an AI beginner to an AI professional who can automate their work and get things done faster, which means you'll be able to earn more. So, I wish you all a great day and see you soon. Bye.